Hello, this is entry 21 of Bill Adkin's life, and today we are going to talk about Alaska, because Bill has lots of stories about Alaska, but the first one is going to start with that wooden doll right there. And I do have a letter of origin that I will read while Bill takes the nesting doll apart. One of the best known art objects that captures the hearts of young and old is the matryoshka, or nesting doll. The name matryoshka is a diminutive of the woman's name Matriana, which refers to the village mother of all the children. Traditionally, a matryoshka doll is given to the mother of all the children. Traditionally, a matryoshka doll is a gift to a newborn, implying fertility, eternal life, and timelessness. This is a one-of-a-kind art doll and is hand-painted and reflects the artist's sense of culture, history, and literature. It is a unique application of the Russian miniature painting of the customary Russian nesting doll form. The artist's name was Vayanova, painted in the city of Moscow in 1992. And this is the red Matryoshka that's red with diamond buttons, and it is a 5 nesting piece. Bill usually has this in his cupboard. And he's getting them back together now so he can show you how they work. And because when it's in his cupboard, there are 5 of them. See, in the beginning, we only saw 1. And now we see 5, and sometimes there can be 10. So let's see all 5 of these nesting dolls now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and little one 5. Matryoshka. How about that? That's pretty amazing. So, Bill, you got them in Alaska. What were you doing in Alaska?
Well, my daughter Erin decided to leave the Los Angeles area. She was sick and tired of people breaking into her car. And fortunately, she was never robbed. So she bought a new Ford pickup truck with a cap, and she put all her worldly goods in that and her dogs, and off she went to Alaska. And she knew exactly what it cost to get up there, so she made sure she had plenty of money. And she called me in Seattle and said, "Dad, I decided to move to Alaska." And I said, "Great. Let me know how you're doing, kid." So off she went, and she took the inland waterway, and I can't remember where it ends, but anyway, she then drove about 800 miles on in to Anchorage. And she met a man. I don't know where she met him, but she met him, and he and his wife owned a bed and breakfast. And he was so taken with her that he said, "You can stay at our bed and breakfast and you don't have to pay a penny." Well, that really helped financially for her. So she got a job and started working. And of course, in Alaska, they traditionally treated women like crap, and they didn't give them good wages, You could do the same job as a man and you're going to get half his wage. So she had to put up with that, and she had some experiences along the way with some men, and she met a guy who she got along with real well, and he wanted to go to Delta Junction. That's the junction of some highways there, the Alaskan Highway, and kind of like the entry into Alaska. And so they found a place where they could live and started life together. Not married, just buddy. And he had an airboat, and they used to go around on his airboat to waterways and so on, and really enjoyed it. And we came up there and visited them there in Delta Junction, and stayed in their place. And after we left, Erin had an opportunity, and he did, to buy some acreage up in the Wrangell Mountain Range, near a place called McCarthy, which was the town that was used for the mining company, copper mining company, and Kennecott Copper. And she was really infatuated with that town. And so they decided together to buy this property. And they did. And Erin continued working as he did. And suddenly he decided that he didn't want to do it. He wanted to go someplace else. So she said, okay, then I'll pay you off what you've paid already, and I'll take it over myself, which she did, because she really wanted those 75 acres. And I don't know how long it took her, but she paid him, and then she paid off the property itself. And she was very, very good with money. She knew how to be frugal. She never had paid anything on time to a great extent. She saved money for a car. She paid for the car completely. And but she was really happy about that. And we visited her, and she said, well, I'm going to take you up to my trailer. And we didn't know what that means. We just thought it was a nice house trailer that she had brought up there. And when we got there, the place was a pigsty. And there was bare furniture, and it was dirty, and Rita said, no way are we going to stay here. And we told her, sorry, Erin, but we can't stay in your trailer. And she told us some stories about experience in the trailer, where she had two of her dogs, and one night they started barking like crazy, and they wouldn't stop, and they wanted out, and she was afraid to let them out. She looked through the window, and here's a huge bear right there, and the dogs were barking at it, and she realized that the dog's barking kept the bear from trying to get into the trailer. And finally the bear gave up and left. And so she definitely recognized the fact that her dog saved her life. And she didn't have any weapons, so she knew that she had to get a gun to protect herself. If she just didn't realize that there could be bears there. So she got herself a .45 automatic, and that's what she used to protect herself from anything, but she never had to do it. With the dogs there, they took care of it. And but we said, no way are we going to stay in this trailer, Erin. It's a pigsty. And she knew a guy who she was kind of playing around with there, and he was a truck driver. And she said, okay, we'll go into the nearest town where there's a motel and you can stay there. And I said, fine. So we went to a town, I don't know where it was, but it might have been Chitna. And we stayed at a motel, very nice place. And she and this guy stayed in another room there. And the next day we had breakfast and off we went to Anchorage to get back to her place. And that was an experience. And I think we went to McCarthy. There's a raging river between McCarthy and the road that she drove on to get to her property. And they had put a cable ride in there where you pull a cart, somehow it's a wheel cart that's on the cable, and you pull it across the river and get out, and then someone else might want to go back and they pull it across the river. And that's how people came and went in McCarthy. That was the only way to get into McCarthy except for the airport. They had a small airport and people used to fly in there with the airplane. And so we left there and went back to Anchorage and stayed with her friends and so on for a few days, and finally decided, well, that's enough, we're gone. And we left. But that was quite an experience for us. And
well, tell me about her building skills.
huh?
Her building skills. Tell us about that.
Well, much later now. This was several years later.
Mm-hmm.
She decided to, after she paid for the property, she decided to build a cabin on the property. And I don't remember how she built it, but I think she had a guy who helped her get going with it. And we came up there one year and it was all completed, and it was a beautiful small 12 by 12 cabin, and it was very, very well equipped with burners and stoves and heaters and everything else, and a very secure with a very good lock, so the chances would be that no one would ever try to break in. And we went up there with her, and I can't remember how he did it, but we stayed in a double bed there in her cabin, and I can't remember where she stayed, but she might have stayed in a tent outside with her dogs. And we made it through a few days there and went back to Anchorage. And I was always impressed with her stubbornness, where she was determined to do this, determined to do that, and she did. She wanted to build a cabin, she built a cabin. Well, then she decided to, at the same time she built the cabin, she built an outhouse. Because, you know, you have that necessity. And that took some work. And eventually she built a second cabin. And that cabin she built 100% by herself. And a beautiful quality of work. And we were very impressed. And so when we came up there one year, we stayed there at her little cabin, and she stayed at her little cabin, and we were very, very comfortable. She locked all of her stuff in those cabins, and no one ever broke into the cabins. I think it was just the fact that people were honest and wanted to make sure that people were protected, and because that way it would protect them as well. And she really loved it there. So that was our experience with her cabins. And we went to McCarthy several times over a 4 or 5 year period, and it was not cheap to get to Alaska by airplane, but that's how we went. We saved money all year long just to go to Alaska to see Erin. And I was always impressed with her ability to do things. Her stubbornness got her through tough times. And she was remarkable. She was remarkable. And during this long period of, I don't know, 10 or 12 years, she had married a guy who drove a cement truck in Los Angeles, and they were married in Las Vegas. And of course, Rita and I attended the wedding, and the only person missing was David. He had a contract to build some houses, and he had to finish that contract because he was against due date, and he was in the penalty phase because these guys walked off the job, and he had to do everything by himself. That was too bad. And we attended the wedding, and they got married, and very nice father and mother. And he was a real nice guy. And he owned a sailboat. And he lived on it part of the year. And they lived on it part of the year. And I don't know how long they were married, but it wasn't a long time. And she said, "That's it, I'm out of here." And she took off and said, "I'm going to Alaska." So up in Alaska, she met a guy who was a small contractor, and he had 2 daughters, and one of them had a baby out of wedlock, and she was the baby's babysitter, which she did not like doing. And she told him, "Well, if we get married, the girls have got to go." Okay, fine. That I agreed to. So they got married, and the girls stayed and stayed and stayed, and she talked to him, and he said, "I'll talk to the girls and get them out of here. Well, it never got done, so she dumped him. Then she met another guy who was a small contractor, and they got married. And she was very happy with him, but somehow there was an argument or whatever, and she dumped him, or they dumped each other, I don't know. And then she moved to McCarthy, Alaska, and got a job finally with the state of Alaska. And she did a very good job working there. And they loved her. She was very, very good. And she met a guy by the name of Bob Ham, and he did body work on cars. And he had a big, big shop there at his cabin. And they lived in the one-bedroom cabin, and he worked in the shop all day, and she worked in McCarthy. And don't ask me what she did, I can't remember. But they really had, I thought, a very good life together. And we came up there one year. He had a loader backhoe that he wanted to overhaul the engine, and I helped him take the engine out of it and strip it down to get it overhauled. And then the next year we came back, I helped him put it back into the loader, and that was quite a challenge, but we did it. And shortly after we left, he was able to get running, and as far as I know, he still runs it. But somehow she had an effect on men that didn't set too well, I guess. And eventually she and Bob got a divorce, and they were married a while. And but they remained friends, but she said no. And after that, no men in her life. And she really worked for the state, did her job, and she worked for them there in Anchorage. And then she had a chance to transfer to another division, like from the forestry division to the fire division, and so on. And she transferred twice. And the people accepted her, and she was promoted, and she really did a very, very good job. She was determined to do a very good job. And so that was it. That was what she was doing when she started going to Mexico to vacations. And then she occasionally would go on a cruise, and she would call me because Rita had already passed away. And she called me and said, "Dad, how would you like to go on a cruise?" And I said, "Love it." So I flew to Los Angeles and met her there, and we went down on the ship to Mexico Riviera, and we had a wonderful time. And traveling with her, I had no problems with Erin. She might have had problems with other people, but she never had problems with her dad. And that made me feel good. And so that was it. She was doing those things and living up there. If I can back up a little bit, when she was living in McCarthy, she had a chance to buy some property, and she bought it. And she was the first person purchasing property in this housing area. And she contracted with a contractor, and he built a house for her. And she was the first house there. And she had a dog, and she just loved it there. And we would come to visit her. She had a pretty good sized home. She was 3-bedroom, and the master bedroom was on one side of the house, and the 2 guest rooms were on the other side of the house. And she had it very, very well designed. And over the years, she acquired a brand new Ford 350 pickup truck diesel with every accessory you could think about. And she got this through the Ford dealer. He had ordered this truck to show people all these different accessories to help him sell trucks and the accessories. And he finally decided, I think the truck was about 2 years old, and he decided to get rid of it. And it wasn't really a used truck, because it was still a new truck. It was registered with Ford Motor. And so she bought it. And she loved it. And she took us everywhere in Alaska with that truck. And my stepdaughter, Rita's oldest daughter, came up to see Erin, and they went to the Arctic Circle with the truck. And the roads, of course, were not that good, but trucks went over them. And Julie thought that was the most unbelievable experience she had. And she had asked Erin if she would take her to Nancy's house, but she never did. And so Nancy did not get to see Julie up there. And that was very upsetting for her, but she had caused a problem with Erin, and you know, sometimes these things don't heal. And Erin never forgot it. She never forgave Nancy. So she did things to hurt her, and that's the way it was. But I loved my daughter dearly. I loved my children dearly. I didn't like the fact that they had disagreements. But Nancy and David both had a disagreement with Erin, different ones, and Erin would not forgive them. They had apologized, and then that's fine, but they wouldn't apologize, so there you are, stubborn kids. But it was a wonderful. I went to Alaska 12 times, and every time we went, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And after Rita died, I went up there and went on a fishing trip. Oh, I caught it. Over 100 pounds of salmon. No, oh, come on, Bill. What was that fish? Halibut. And I caught an 80-pound halibut and a 22-pound halibut. And the fishery guy chopped them up and prepared them in a cooler, and I took the cooler back to O'Connell, Wisconsin, where we lived. And we had a fish party for people. And 20 people showed up on our deck at our house, and we had fish dinner. And It was really wonderful, wonderful. And so every experience that we had with Alaska, for the most part, was good. Initially, it was a little rough, but after that, it worked itself out. And I really am glad that I had the chance to visit Erin and go on trips with Erin and appreciate my beautiful daughter.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for the Alaska and for the Erin stories. And there'll be others. Do take care.